One.
Hi, my name is Gventer. My candidate number is 1324. I'll be presenting the ethics of human trafficking. The objectives of this presentation include defining human trafficking and exploring the various definitions of human trafficking, providing an overview of the issue, evaluating the input of philosophers, activists, and leaders, evaluating human trafficking globally, looking at it regionally, providing solutions to trafficking, evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of such solutions, and arriving to a compelling conclusion. The UN defines human trafficking as the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. Other definitions of human trafficking include the United States, which defines human trafficking as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, coercion, for the purpose of involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, or commercial sex acts. They also have a prosecution framework, which includes 3 elements: means, proof of how the trafficker obtained the person; acts are proof of where and how the victim was trafficked; and purpose is proof of intent to exploit the victim's labor or service. In contrast, China's definition is more myopic. They use a general statute to address human trafficking, which is Article 240 of the People's Republic criminal law, which states human trafficking is the abduction or kidnapping of women or other acts for the purpose of selling them or forcing them into prostitution. Notice that that definition specifically mentions women and prostitution and does not avoid the labor exploitation aspect. Next, I'm going to use a quote from Rousseau to explain human trafficking and free will. So Rousseau said, "Man is born free and never where he is in chains," and that explains how human trafficking victims lose their free will to that of others, but also that people have free will and can abuse their free will to take others. Other ethical perspectives include that of Thomas Pogge, who's a philosopher. He states that human trafficking is one of the biggest ethical imperatives in this world. So former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, she stated human trafficking is a human tragedy, and she emphasizes the international effort. Siddharth Kara, who's an author, he stated that behind every statistic is a soul crying for help, and every rescued soul represents a chance for a brighter, more just world. He emphasizes the emotion behind numbers, and that you can't talk about those numbers unless you bring up the fact that these are individuals and real people. Alison Brisk, she emphasizes the intersectional approach and states that the fight against human trafficking must be applied to an economic lens and a political lens. Some facts on human trafficking. Number 1, human trafficking is a diverse issue. So it's more than forced labor or forced sexual relations. It can look like forced marriage, domestic servitude, involuntary servitude, and even underage military service. Number 2, it's an effect of instability. So that's like financial hardship, emotional vulnerability, lack of a safety net, natural disasters, political instability, all create individual vulnerability. Number 3, it's a profitable industry. Estimated at $150 billion, human trafficking is the second most profitable industry in the United States too. Number 4, the International Labor Organization, the United Nations, estimate that there are close to 50 million people in this form of modern slavery, and 35% of them are children. Number 5, boys are the fastest growing demographic of human trafficking victims. So that comes into conflict with China's definition. Number 6, the internet is increasingly becoming a tool for human traffickers. Number 7, trafficking doesn't always occur between the trafficker and those who are trafficked. It often involves a hierarchical pattern, and there's a phrase, use a slave to catch slaves, and that describes how victims often become a means to recruit more victims. Number 8, human trafficking is often hidden in plain sight. So global stats. Number 1, there are 25 million people who are victims of human trafficking. Number 2, women and girls make up 71% of victims, with men and boys at 29%. Number 3, 64% of human trafficking occurs for forced labor and 19% for sexual exploitation. Number 4, the mean age of human trafficking victims is 27. Number 5, the global annual revenue generated from human trafficking is estimated at $32 billion. Some examples of global human trafficking are sex trafficking in Thailand. Thailand is known for sex tourism. Victims are often women and children who are financially unstable, and they're trafficked from neighboring countries like Laos or Cambodia. There's also the specific incident with the FIFA World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. Qatar would bring in migrant workers and subject them to unfair working conditions, and those conditions are often documented. And there's child trafficking in West Africa, specifically in the coca industry in countries like Ghana or the Ivory Coast. And there's also forced marriage in South Asia, which stems from like religious tradition, but often it like leads to sexual and domestic like exploitation. In Eastern Europe, there's organ harvesting due to like relaxed laws about that stuff, and often organs are like trafficked out of people due to like through deception. At a regional level, in the United States, there are major hotspots for human trafficking, and those include cities like Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Miami, and Houston. Number two, there were 11,500 potential human trafficking cases reported in the U.S. in 2020 alone. Number three, human trafficking victims in the U.S. disproportionately include undocumented immigrants, LGBTQ people, homeless people, and drug users. In North Carolina, major hotspots are cities like Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, and Fayetteville. There were 221 reported cases of human trafficking from 2019 to 2021. Of those cases, 64% involved sex trafficking and 28% for labor. And that's like inverse compared to the global level, probably because in the United States we regulate business more. Number three, human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in North Carolina. So for my solutions, my first solution is building legal frameworks in countries across the globe. Number one, that should look like encouraging countries to expand human rights within their governing documents. Number two, encouraging countries to adopt the UN definition of human trafficking as a baseline for the purposes of prosecuting human trafficking. Number three, we should specialize law enforcement to be better equipped for recording and documenting these cases so that they can be used in court. My second solution is to bring back the era of mouthbreaking media. And as consumers of media, we must encourage the reporting of human trafficking cases across the world. Seeing people in specific instances strikes a different spot than just facts and figures and promotes more awareness. Number two, we must look back to our past at the power of media and exposing social injustice in the post-industrial world, using that as a roadmap to reformation for human trafficking, especially in developing countries. Developing countries are often like going through where the United States was 100 years ago, and so that's important. Number three, we should protect whistleblowers who report human trafficking cases from the risk of retaliation. My third solution is to buy ethically produced goods. Number one, incentivize the sale of ethically produced products. Just because trades become freer doesn't mean it's fair. Number two, we can use third-party organizations like Fair Trade International to verify the ethical production of goods. Number three, we should encourage governments to release any knowledge of suspected harmful labor practices in their trafficking persons reports so that consumers can be better informed on how their goods are produced. For my conclusion, human trafficking is an obvious and egregious encroachment of human rights and human decency, and the reasons behind human trafficking and how it can occur can be complex. As President Barack Obama stated in 2016, human trafficking must be called by its real name, modern slavery. It's barbaric and evil and has no place in a civilized world. Human trafficking is all around us, and it's not absent from any one part of the globe. Ethical solutions consist of improving legal frameworks, incentivizing the media to report on this modern slavery, and to educate consumers on ethically produced goods. However, any one solution will not be the solution to human trafficking. The solution to human trafficking must be multifaceted and ideally be preventative rather than reactive.